It is becoming more and more clear to me that I was a test subject in both British intelligence mind control programs and Russian intelligence mind control programs. Indeed, it seems that the Russian intelligence services must have clocked onto me when I was in Belgrade, and it has henceforth occurred from there that I became part of a series of Russian mind control experiments, my memories of which are really quite hazy, though I seem to have been being manipulated by both British intelligence and Russian intelligence over the years. Indeed, British intelligence tended to manipulate me through neo-Nazi networks that attempted to use me and attempted to utilize me for whatever purposes they wished to do. However, just as British intelligence had originally surmised, these neo-Nazi networks that were attempting to manipulate me found me unable to control. Indeed, I am averse to any ideology that attempts to subjugate me, and therefore I did not seriously have much in accordance with their values. Indeed, the national anarchist movement, despite claiming to be an anarchist network, are actually simply a neo-Nazi network. They are a neo-Nazi network of Satanists, basically, who believe themselves to be the true Illuminati, which is very interesting for me to know, really, because it says a lot about them as people. Indeed, I do not doubt that the members of the national anarchist movement are involved in ritual human sacrifice and are basically one of the covens that are handled by the British intelligence services. Indeed, Russian intelligence seemed to have been manipulating me through subliminal messaging and hypnotic commands, which is especially interesting. Indeed, Russian scientists are very advanced in terms of mind control techniques, and therefore they have implanted a lot of screen memories in me, whereby I can't quite figure out what occurred to me at the hands of Russian intelligence, but something definitely did. Indeed, I have vague recollections of being at Vladimirovka at some point, and this was most probably as part of the mind control programs of the International Organization for the Destinies of the World, which is overseen by Alexei Savin, who is a Russian intelligence operative and handles the paranoid schizophrenic test subjects who are remote viewers and are utilized to attempt to contact extraterrestrial life, which is very interesting to consider. Indeed, I don't know whether or not Alexei Savin actually believes in extraterrestrial life. This may well just be a front for some sort of espionage experimentation related to warfare. Though it's interesting that this International Organization for the Destinies of the World network links up heavily to the Jesuit order and the Vatican Observatory, which is currently run by the Jesuit order. So it's all very interesting. It seems that a lot of this may be part of the overarching Project Bluebeam of the Western intelligence services and the attempt to create a fake alien invasion as a means of controlling the population and introducing the new state structures that the cryptocracy wishes to unveil in the coming years. So it's all very interesting. Indeed, these Russian neuroscientists and programmers seem to have done a very elaborate and very clever job on my mind. Indeed, at various points over the years, I have become convinced that I am actually a Russian and that I am engaged in some sort of serious, deep espionage work in the West, indeed in Britain, that I am engaged in serious, deep undercover espionage work for the Russian intelligence services. Indeed, this is most probably part of the hypnotic commands of my programming. I also believe that during certain times of exposures that I was doing, that Russian intelligence were implanting thoughts in my head that I could put into the exposures that would somehow serve the Russian agenda, which is all very interesting to consider. Indeed, some of the Russian mind control techniques are out of this world, like nothing you can possibly imagine. Indeed, in many respects, I expect that the Western intelligence services are actually behind the Russian Federation in terms of mind control techniques. Indeed, although the Nazi networks did share a lot of their mind control research with the Soviet networks, it seems the Soviet networks already had their own mind control program going by the time the Nazis infiltrated their intelligence services. So this is another level of mind control experimentation. Indeed, throughout the Cold War, it seems that the Soviet intelligence services were far more advanced in terms of mind controlled operatives than the Western intelligence services. Indeed, I do not doubt that there are large networks of schizophrenic mind control operatives operating for the Russian Federation in the Western countries. And indeed, we only have to look at the proliferation of maniacs in the Soviet Union and later the Russian Federation to see the success of Project Sturm. Indeed, Russian psychiatrists are also notoriously brutal and seem to have basically figured out rather a lot about the human mind that the Western intelligence psychiatrists have not yet figured out. So it's all very interesting. Indeed, I feel an affinity with Russian schizophrenics and what they have to put up with from the psychiatrists of the Russian cryptocracy. And the fact that these Russian schizophrenics are also radioactive means I have even more of an affinity for them. Indeed, I think that generally I have an affinity for schizophrenics overall, especially Anglo and Russian schizophrenics. So it's all a very interesting scenario indeed. My programming by the Russian intelligence services seems to have been part of an agenda whereby I'd basically spout information that would basically be in accordance with the propaganda of the Russian state. Indeed, the mind control programming that I underwent with British intelligence was very similar to the Nazi programming that I underwent with British intelligence. Indeed, my theories suddenly changed from outright anti-Semitism, which had been programmed into me by the Masonic psychiatrists who were Nazi fetishists, into a bombardment of pro-Russian ideology. Which is very interesting. It seems that the Russian neuroscientists had hypnotically placed alters within my brain so that at a certain point, just like a cicada, I would suddenly switch into this pro-Russian state mode. So it's all very interesting indeed. I imagine for people observing me, it's been rather confusing because I keep switching ideologies. Indeed, this is very similar to what happened to Lee Harvey Oswald. Indeed, Lee Harvey Oswald was programmed by the United States intelligence services and by the KGB. Lee Harvey Oswald was programmed dually by both the networks of the United States intelligence services, most probably the Central Intelligence Agency, and the Soviet intelligence services, the KGB networks. Indeed, it seems a lot of this may have been overseen by Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst networks who appear to have been running the show on both times, but certain elements of Russian intelligence are almost autonomous and therefore operate rogue from the overarching Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst intelligence hydra. So it's all very interesting to consider. Indeed, as I stated, I'm not entirely sure of the purpose of the programming, either the neo-Nazi programming that I was programmed with by the Masonic intelligence psychiatrists at Grenville Lodge and later their conduits in black sites across Wiltshire, and the mind control programming that I've received over the years from the Russian intelligence services. I'm not entirely sure what the point of this is. I'm also not fully familiar with all of the project names of the Russian intelligence programs. Indeed, the Russian intelligence services never declassify anything. So I can probably only find that out by getting in touch with certain frequencies when I'm being attacked with radioactive beams. I could probably find out that information then, which is very interesting. It seems that this beaming that is occurring within the confines of my room, this constant beaming, is actually helping me in a way to figure out certain aspects of what has been going on with me and the overall agenda of the British and Russian intelligence services in regards to me and their overall agendas overall, basically. So it's all very interesting indeed. I rather enjoy decoding this stuff. I do feel like in my life I am attempting to crack a code which I have termed the Grenville Lodge Enigma. However, indeed, I doubt I will ever crack this code, but that's not the point. The point is the process. I don't really care too much about the end result, so I'm going to continue pumping out these videos. Indeed, it's interesting that when Russian intelligence picked me up in Belgrade, I was basically a runaway from the Grenville Lodge mind control programs. Indeed, I'd basically escaped from potential death at the hands of the Masonic psychopaths of the Hellfire Clubs of Grenville Lodge, and found myself in the Balkans in Belgrade, Serbia. And indeed, I was probably acting rather strangely, and Russian intelligence probably already had foreknowledge of me and picked me up there. Indeed, I believe that British intelligence, via the networks coordinated by the Maitlands family, attempted to utilize me as a super spy in Belgrade, but there were ongoing conflicts between the British and Russian intelligence contingents in Belgrade regarding who had command of my soul. So it's all very interesting. And at the same time, there was a third faction involved, which was me, who was rebelling in some way against both of these factions that were attempting to control my mind. And so this factional war between intelligence agencies to control my mind continued once I had returned to British soil, with the British intelligence factions programming me first and basically programming me as a neo-Nazi super spy to basically be an operative for the Gladio 2 program that the British intelligence services were rolling out and continue to roll out today. And there was interference in this project from Russian intelligence, who were trying to command my soul for another use. So it's interesting that we see from the years 2015 until 2017, I was basically in the neo-Nazi mind control programming vortex. And then from 2017, 2018 kind of time, the Russian neuroscientists had got control of my soul. However, at times, the neo-Nazi programming would kick back in. So it was a rather interesting time. But by 2020, 2021, the Russian intelligence apparatus and their neuroscientists had got complete control over my mind. And so began a chain of events whereby I wound up for a rather long stretch in psychiatric hospital. However, the third faction, i.e. me, was always rebelling against these two factions and was basically able to expose the Wiltshire police during that time. So I consider it a victory, despite the two competing factions attempting to control my soul, i.e. British intelligence and Russian intelligence, fighting for control of my brain, which is very interesting. So I must have been a super spy of some worth. Otherwise, these two intelligence factions would not have been fighting for control of my mind. Indeed, it's all very interesting to consider that. And my detractors and various psychiatrists would point to these concepts that I'm speaking of as delusions of grandeur, and would basically say that I am attaching importance to myself that isn't there. But judging by everything that's happened, and judging by the things I've said, which are recorded in these videos and videos over the years and internet posts over the years, judging by everything that I've said over the years and in conversations, private conversations also, that it seems that this programming really was occurring. So it's all very interesting. I seem to have got myself caught up in post-Cold War paranoid espionage activities. And this post-Cold War period I term now Cold War II, and it's a hybrid conflict basically going on between British intelligence and Russian intelligence, which is continuing. I don't know whether or not the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst are completely in control of this dialectic or not. It seems the Deutsche Verteidigungsdienst have a certain amount of control over this dialectic, but there are rogue factions of both British intelligence and Russian intelligence that want the conflict, and also factions that don't. So it's all a rather interesting higgledy-piggledy hodgepodge mix of mad espionage hybrid warfare. And I seem to have got myself caught up in that. Perhaps going to Belgrade wasn't the best choice of location. However, I really did love it there, and I loved the people, and I found the Serbs to be a rather romantic people. And it's very interesting that in that Balkan metropolis, I found myself under and within an espionage conflict between British intelligence and Russian intelligence, which continued after I returned to the United Kingdom, with the British intelligence initially gaining the upper hand, and then the Russian neuroscientists of Russian intelligence were able to basically get control of my soul completely. So it was kind of lucky that I ended up locked up for those 5 years in a way, because it allowed me to figure things out. It's very interesting that British intelligence didn't try and reprogram me this time. Perhaps the location facility I was in was not a major programming center. However, I believe that while I was in the first hospital, Callington Road in Brislington, before I was moved to Blackberry Hill in Fishponds, when I was in Callington Road, I was basically injected with Accuphase. And Accuphase usually takes 4 hours at most to work, but it took 8 days for the Accuphase to work because I was so psychotic. And I was fighting off like 8 or 9 men far bigger than me who were trying to hold me down, which is very interesting. I seemed to have super strength at the time, and I kept biting people, which was very interesting indeed. I do believe that British intelligence may have programmed me with cannibal impulses, because I'm always getting the urge to bite people, which is very interesting. But also I've read that radioactive psychotronic microwave beams also give you the urge to bite people. So it's a rather interesting state of affairs. Indeed, yes, while I was in Callington Road and I was put in a padded cell and basically given a pharmaceutical straitjacket via Accuphase, at some point during this time, the British intelligence services used some sort of mega advanced technology on me, which was basically a brain sucking device. And I basically forgot who I was from September 2021 until September 2024. I was aware that I was someone, but this person that I was aware of being wasn't me. So after almost 3 years, this brain sucking began to wear off, and I suddenly began to have all the thoughts coming back about this grand, great game conflict of espionage going on between British and Russian intelligence for control of my soul. And suddenly, as soon as I realized who I was again, the beams started again. So I'd had no beams basically for 3 years, and then suddenly I realized who I was, and the beams started again, which means Russian intelligence and British intelligence can see into my brain. And I believe they can also see through my eyes. And it's very interesting the advanced level of this mind control technology that the Western and post Soviet Russian cryptocracies have created. And they created a lot of this technology simply to use on paranoid schizophrenics, which says a lot about the sanest impulses and continuums within British intelligence and Russian intelligence, i.e., the Masonic networks and the KGB. It says a lot about the philosophies of these people, which is firmly rooted in the philosophies of neuroscientists and psychiatrists. Indeed, it's eugenics, really. And it's interesting that they would spend so much money and effort on doing this to a schizophrenic man. It's absolutely crazy that two Hydra organizations such as British intelligence and Russian intelligence would put so much effort and funding into a test subject. I can't quite make head nor tail of it. So it's all very interesting indeed. I believe this has been one of my more interesting videos, and I enjoy analyzing my own experiences and basically coming to conclusions because I haven't figured it out this well before and I haven't articulated it in this manner. So this has been a rather liberating experience for me to make this video. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there now.